What I'd like to do is talk to you first about what is not consultative selling, and that can kind of help us to have a frame of reference to look at. And so I want to look at what is product selling. To be honest with you, this is probably what the majority of salespeople out there do. I get encountered and sold by salespeople I get sold to a lot. Almost every salesperson that I interact with does product selling. Let me talk to you a little bit about what that is. Basically, I'm going to go through some characteristics of what product selling is. For each characteristic, I'll then look at the counterpart of what that is like on the consultative selling side. And just to kind of let you know the direction we're going here, the exact opposite of each characteristic, just about, the opposite is what equals consultative selling. So let's just take a look at what product selling is. And so this focuses more on talking about the product. So a salesperson, the main focus of what their sales pitch is centered around, and everything they talk about is around the product that they sell, also around the company they work for. So this is where a salesperson might be giving a presentation, and it's structured around, this is the company I work for, this is where our offices is, this is the year we were founded in, here are the products we sell, this is what the products cost. It's really all centered around the product and the company. And the thing about that approach is that's a very all about me approach. My product, my company, me, me, me. And if you kind of compare that to a social interaction, if you ever have gone to dinner or lunch with someone who only talked about themselves, then you might reflect on what that experience was. It might have been boring, you might not have been engaged, that person might not have taken steps forward in terms of building a bond with you in whatever type of relationship. You might have been kind of excited about ending that experience when someone's just all about me. So apply that to selling. Don't be a salesperson that is all about me. Product selling salespeople assume that every prospect needs the product that they sell. Yes, if you're a business owner or a salesperson, you probably have a great product. Either you do, or it's understandable for you to assume that your product is great. That greatness in your mind can make you think that everybody needs what you sell. And the reality is that a lot of prospects that are out there, they might not need it for different reasons. Either they just bought what you sold and they're locked up and good and don't need what you sell. So because a product selling salesperson thinks everybody needs their product, they try to sell to everybody. And it's not to say that this type of salesperson is walking down the street, walking up to everybody trying to sell, but to think about the prospects that they cross paths with, whether they're at a networking event, whether they're making calls, cold calls, whenever they're sending an email, on the phone, they're interacting in some way or another with a potential prospect, they're trying to sell the product. They are focused on selling products to prospects. This list will make sense when we look at the opposite of what I'm describing here, so bear with me on this. This person tries to sell the product at every step of the sales process. So unless you have a one-call close, instantaneous type of purchase, sale type of product, there's some sort of sales process. And the product selling salesperson will try to sell the product at every step. And it's not to say that at every step of the process, whether that's a cold call or an email or a meeting, an appointment, that they're always saying, "Are you ready to purchase?" But they're coming at an angle of, "I have this to sell. Are you interested?" And let me give you an example. And I'll show you some examples of some emails here in a minute, but to send an email of saying, "I sell this service, I want to schedule a meeting to talk to you about if you need this service." Of course, you're trying to schedule a meeting, but the angle you're coming from is you want to sell this and you want to know if the prospect is going to buy from you. So there's a different approach which doesn't try to sell the product at every step. When you're doing product selling, the salesperson does most of the talking. They're just showing up and throwing up. They're talking all about their product and not getting a chance to really learn more about the prospect. The pitch centers around explanations and descriptions. So this is what when the salesperson is doing all the talking, they're explaining what the product does, and they think that the more they describe what they have to sell, the more interested you'll be. The more they talk about the features and how it works, the more they're going to sell. And so whether you agree with that or not, that's clearly product selling. They talk about the product in order to make the prospect interested. You cross paths and you're interacting in some way or another with a prospect. I want to make this prospect interested so that they purchase. So the only tool I'm going to use is to talk about the product. Again, product selling, right? They focus primarily on the salesperson's, and the salesperson focuses primarily on their own interests. So what are the salesperson's interests? Selling the product, making commissions, hitting targets, maybe, you could say not working real hard, or, having an easy job or whatever. But one of the biggest interests of a salesperson is making money, being successful, and hitting sales targets. And when you're doing product selling, you're primarily focused on those things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's not important to focus on hitting your targets, being competitive, working hard, and being driven by money. Those are all good things. But your prospect also has your prospect has interests as well. And so we'll talk about that a little bit with consultative selling. When you're doing product selling and you face an objection, the primary response is try to overcome it. So when let's say, for example, that you're doing product selling and you face the objection of I'm not interested. Well, your response there is to overcome that objection by making the prospect interested. So you said you're not interested. Well, let me describe the product more, right? That goes back to the explanations and the descriptions. Let me talk more about the product to try to get around this objection. So that's product selling. In a minute, we're going to go through line by line and compare that to consultative selling. What that's going to do is that's going to basically provide you the map. It's going to provide you the clarity as to what exactly consultative selling is, and it'll provide you the map that you can follow if that's something that you want to adopt.